The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dense jungle. The air was thick with the sounds of alien creatures calling out, their voices echoing through the trees. In the distance, a small group of humans dressed in tactical gear trekked through the thick foliage, their boots crunching on the soft ground. They were deep in the heart of an alien world, a planet they had never set foot on before. The mission was simple: find and capture the most dangerous creature, to hunt on this planet, and bring it back as proof of their dominance. Among the group was one man, John, a seasoned hunter with years of experience in hostile environments. His eyes were sharp, scanning the jungle around him, always alert. He had seen dangerous creatures before, but nothing like this. The creature they were after was legendary, a beast said to be untouchable. It was larger than any predator on Earth, with scales like iron and claws that could tear through steel. Many hunters had tried to capture it, but none had returned. John's heart raced as they neared the creature's territory. His comrades were nervous, but John remained calm. He had faced worse, and he was ready. They set up their camp, making sure to stay quiet and hidden from any predators that might be lurking nearby. As night fell, the jungle came alive with strange noises. The air was thick with tension, and every rustle of leaves made the hunters flinch. But John remained unfazed. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the jungle, followed by the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps. The ground shook as the massive creature approached. John's eyes narrowed. This was it. The hunt had begun. He motioned for his team to stay low as the creature came into view. Its massive form moved through the trees like a shadow, its glowing eyes scanning the area. The beast was as terrifying as the stories had described. Its muscles rippled under its armored skin, and its breath came in slow, heavy gasps. But John was no ordinary hunter. He had a plan. As the creature moved closer, he reached for his weapon, a specially designed net launcher capable of capturing the beast. With a swift motion, he fired the net, sending it sprawling across the creature's body. The beast roared in fury, thrashing violently as it tried to break free, but John didn't flinch. He knew this was only the beginning. The creature's roar shook the ground beneath them. It turned, its massive eyes locking onto John. For a moment, there was silence. Then, with a speed that took John by surprise, the beast lunged at him. It was faster than any predator he had ever encountered, and before he could react, it was upon him. But John was prepared. He had trained for this moment. With a swift movement, he dodged the beast's claws and grabbed hold of its neck. His hands gripped its powerful muscles, and with all his strength, he twisted, using his entire body to bring the creature down. The struggle was intense, each second feeling like an eternity. His heart pounded in his chest as he fought for control. But in that moment, as the beast's growls filled the air, something incredible happened. John caught the creature with his bare hands. The creature's body went limp, and John stood over it, breathing heavily. His team stared in disbelief, their mouths agape. The creature, the one that had claimed the lives of so many before him, was now at his feet. But John wasn't done. He knew that capturing the creature was just the first step. Now came the hardest part, surviving the consequences of his actions. The jungle seemed to hold its breath as the air grew still. The team looked at each other in awe and fear. What would happen next? Could they truly claim victory, or had they just unleashed a nightmare upon themselves? The night stretched on, filled with unanswered questions and the distant sounds of unknown creatures. John's victory, though hard-earned, was only the beginning of a far greater struggle. The first light of dawn broke through the dense jungle canopy, casting long shadows across the camp. The air was thick with humidity, and the ground was wet from the previous night's rain. John stood over the creature, his heart still racing from the intense struggle. His hands were slick with sweat, and his breathing was heavy, but there was no time to rest. The beast, although captured, was not subdued. It was still a powerful force to be reckoned with, and John knew they couldn't afford to let their guard down. His team gathered around, still stunned by the events of the night. Their faces were a mix of awe and fear, their eyes wide as they watched the creature twitch in the net. "How did you do that?" one of his teammates, Mark, asked, his voice barely a whisper. John didn't answer immediately. He was too focused on the creature, watching its every move. He had seen this kind of thing before, creatures that were deceptively calm, only to lash out at the slightest provocation. The air was tense, thick with the weight of their situation. John motioned for the team to stay back as he carefully approached the beast. Its massive eyes flicked toward him, its breathing slow but steady. John's mind raced as he analyzed the creature's movements. He could feel the power in its muscles, the raw strength that could easily overpower any human. It had then an incredible stroke of luck that he had captured it, but that luck wouldn't last forever. With a steady hand, John reached for his equipment, securing the creature's body to prevent any sudden movements. As he worked, the team stood silent, watching him with a mix of admiration and concern. "We need to move quickly," John finally sighed, his voice low but commanding. "This creature isn't just going to lie down and let us take it back. We need to find a way to neutralize it before it regains its strength." Just as he finished speaking, the creature let out a low, guttural growl. John froze, his senses on high alert. The air seemed to crackle with energy, and the jungle around them grew eerily silent. John's instincts kicked in, and he spun around, ready to fight if necessary. The team followed his movements, their weapons raised, prepared for anything. Suddenly, the creature began to thrash against its restraints, its body jerking violently. John barely managed to dive out of the way as it broke free of the net. The ground shook as the massive creature lunged at him, its claws extended, ready to strike. John rolled to his feet, heart pounding, and narrowly avoided the creature's attack. He could hear the sounds of his team scrambling behind him, but his focus was solely on the creature. He knew the fight was far from over. This creature was not just a beast, it was a force of nature, and they had unwittingly provoked its wrath. The jungle seemed to come alive around them, the sounds of distant creatures echoing through the trees. John's mind raced as he considered their options. They were in its territory now, and there was no telling how far the creature would go. To protect itself, "Get ready," John shouted to his team. "We need to subdue it before it gets any further." But as the team closed in, the creature's rage only intensified. It turned toward them, its eyes blazing with fury. Its roar was deafening, and it seemed as if the jungle itself trembled in fear. John's hands tightened around his weapon as he prepared for another round of battle. This time, he knew, they couldn't afford to make any mistakes. The creature was unlike anything they had ever faced. It moved with terrifying speed, and its strength seemed limitless. The team was struggling to keep up as the creature tore through the jungle, dodging every trap and counterattack they set. The tension was thick in the air, and every step felt like a life or death decision. John's mind raced as he calculated their next move. The creature was relentless, and every time they thought they had it cornered, it managed to slip away. John gritted his teeth and made a decision. They had no choice but to take the creature head-on. It was the only way to ensure their survival. "Follow my lead," he barked, charging toward the creature. The team hesitated for a moment, but then followed, knowing they had no other option. The battle for survival was just beginning, and John knew that this was a war they couldn't afford to lose. The jungle was alive with chaos. The creature, enraged by the assault, tore through the dense foliage, moving faster than John thought possible. Its massive form blended with the shadows of the trees, leaving the team scrambling to keep up. John's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he followed close behind. His mind was focused, calculating their next move. But every instinct in his body told him that the creature was in control now. The ground beneath them shook with each step the creature took. Its roars echoed through the jungle, a warning to everything around. John knew that they had to act quickly, or they would lose their chance. The creature was relentless, its claws cutting through the thick vines with ease. John motioned for his team to spread out and surround the beast, but they couldn't get a clear shot. Every time they thought they had it cornered, the creature vanished into the shadows once again. John's breath was heavy, his legs burning from the constant sprint through the jungle. He was no stranger to difficult terrain, but this was different. The thick underbrush, the twisting trees, the ever-present danger, it was a relentless pursuit. His team was slowing down, exhausted from the chase, but John knew there was no turning back now. He had to be the one to stop this dot as they continued deeper into the jungle. John spotted the creature ahead of them. It was momentarily caught in a patch of thick vines, struggling to free itself. This was their chance. John raised his weapon, signaling his team to prepare for the final confrontation. They moved quickly, getting into position to trap the creature. But as they closed in, the creature broke free, its eyes glowing with fury. The beast roared in defiance, charging toward John and his team. It was faster than they could react, moving like a blur through the jungle. John fired his weapon, releasing a powerful net that should have ensnared the creature. But the beast twisted and turned with unnatural agility, avoiding the trap. The team fired again, but the creature was too quick, darting between the trees, using the jungle as its shield. John's frustration grew. They had underestimated its speed and cunning. He needed a new plan, and fast. The jungle was closing in around them, and they were running out of time. With every step, the creature seemed to be getting stronger, more unpredictable. The chase was no longer a game of skill, it was a race for survival. "Split up," John shouted to his team. "We need to corner it from all sides." His voice was sharp, commanding, and the team reacted immediately. They fanned out, each one taking a different path to try and trap the creature. John moved cautiously, knowing that one wrong move could cost them everything. The jungle was dense, and every shadow seemed to hide something dangerous. As John pressed on, he heard a noise, a low growl, followed by a loud crash. His heart skipped a beat. The creature was close. He turned just in time to see it charge directly at him, its eyes locked onto his. It was faster than anything he had ever seen, and in that instant, John realized how dangerous it truly was. This wasn't just a hunt, it was a battle for his life. John barely had time to react. He dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the creature's claws as it swiped at him with brutal force. The ground shook beneath him as he landed on his back, the air knocked out of him. He scrambled to his feet, but the creature was already circling, its eyes fixed on him like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. "Stay focused," John shouted to his team, struggling to catch his breath. He knew he couldn't do this alone. They had to work together to bring the creature down, or they would all perish in the jungle. But as he looked around, he realized that the team was already in disarray. Some of them were too far behind, while others had lost sight of the creature. Entirely. John cursed under his breath. They needed to regroup, but the creature was relentless. It circled them, testing their defenses, always staying one step ahead. The team was exhausted, their energy running low, but John refused to give up. He couldn't afford to. The creature's eyes burned with fury, but John's resolve was stronger. This was his fight, and he wasn't going to lose. The jungle around them seemed to close in, the dense foliage pressing in from all sides. John could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him. They had entered the heart of the creature's territory, and now they were trapped. There was no turning back. They had to face the creature head-on, or they wouldn't survive. John tightened his grip on his weapon and moved forward. The creature roared, charging at him once again, but this time, he was ready. He could hear the team closing in, but everything seemed to slow down as he focused solely on the beast. This was it. The final confrontation. And in that moment, John knew that no matter the outcome, he had to end this fight now. The jungle grew silent, as if holding its breath. The creature, massive and powerful, stood before John, its eyes glowing with primal fury. The air was thick with tension, every movement feeling like a threat. John's heart beat in his chest, the adrenaline coursing through his veins as he prepared for the final fight. There was no escape now. They were at the mercy of the beast. John gripped his weapon tightly, sweat dripping down his face. His team was scattered around him, but he could feel the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. They had followed him into this nightmare, and now it was up to him to lead them out alive. The creature growled, its sharp claws digging into the ground as it shifted, preparing to strike. John's mind raced, every second feeling like an eternity. The creature was fast, and its strength was unmatched. It would take everything he had to bring it down. But John wasn't afraid. He had faced impossible odds before. This time, however, the stakes were higher. They weren't just hunting for sport, they were fighting for their survival. With a sudden roar, the creature lunged at him, its claws slashing through the air. John barely managed to dodge, rolling to the side as the creature crashed into the ground where he had been standing moments before. The force of the impact sent a shockwave through the jungle, knocking John off balance. He scrambled to his feet, his breath ragged as he moved to avoid the creature's next strike. The jungle around them seemed to come alive, the trees swaying as the creature moved with terrifying speed. John's team tried to flank the beast, but the creature was too quick, its movements almost instinctual. It was a hunter, and they were the prey. John knew that if they didn't act fast, they wouldn't make it out alive. "Cover me!" John shouted, his voice steady despite the chaos. He charged forward, determined to take the creature head-on. His team hesitated for a moment, but then followed his lead. They opened fire, but the creature's thick hide shrugged off the attacks as if they were nothing. It was like fighting a force of nature, and no amount of firepower seemed to slow it down. John closed the distance, his eyes locked onto the creature. This time he would end it. He reached for his last weapon, a high-powered energy rifle designed for situations like this. With a steady hand, he aimed at the creature's heart, knowing that this was their only chance, but the creature wasn't done yet. It turned, its massive body moving with surprising agility, and swiped at John with a force that sent him flying. He crashed into a tree, the wind knocked out of him as he struggled to regain his footing. His vision blurred for a moment, but he refused to give up. He had come too far. His team closed in again, but the creature retaliated, its powerful claws sweeping across the jungle floor, knocking them back with each strike. The battle raged on, the jungle now a war zone. Trees splintered, rocks were torn from the earth, and the very air seemed to vibrate with the creature's fury. John could feel the ground shaking beneath him as he pushed himself up, determined to finish the fight. The creature let out a deafening roar, its glowing eyes fixed on John once more. It was as if it recognized him, the one who had dared to capture it. It was a battle of wills now, the hunter versus the prey. But John was no longer just fighting for survival. He was fighting for his team, for the future of their mission. With one final push, John charged, his energy rifle raised. The creature lunged at him again, but this time, John was ready. He fired, the blast striking the creature's heart with pinpoint accuracy. The beast let out a final deafening roar before collapsing to the ground, its massive body twitching in its death throes. John stood over the fallen creature, his chest heaving as the adrenaline began to fade. The jungle fell silent once more, the sounds of the battle slowly dissipating. His team gathered around, their faces a mix of exhaustion and relief. They had done it. They had faced the toughest creature on the planet and survived. But as John looked down at the creature's lifeless form, he knew this was only the beginning. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. They had come to this planet to conquer, but now they had to deal with the consequences of their actions. The creature had been the guardian of this world, and its death would have far-reaching consequences. John's thoughts raced as he turned to his team. They had accomplished the impossible, but at what cost? They had taken the first step into a much larger conflict, one that would test them in ways they couldn't yet imagine. And as the jungle began to stir again, John couldn't shake the feeling that the true danger was only just beginning. The jungle seemed eerily quiet after the creature's final roar faded into the distance. John stood over the massive beast, still catching his breath, his body battered and bruised from the battle. His team slowly approached, their expressions a mixture of exhaustion and disbelief. They had done it. They had brought down the creature that many thought was untouchable. But the victory felt hollow, as if the real fight was only beginning. John wiped the sweat from his forehead and took a long look at the creature's lifeless form. Its massive body lay sprawled on the jungle floor, its scales now dull and lifeless. It was hard to believe that such a powerful creature had been brought down. But even in death, the beast seemed to command respect. The jungle had fallen silent, as though mourning the loss of its guardian. "We did it," Mark said, his voice shaky but triumphant. "We actually did it." John nodded but didn't respond immediately. His thoughts were elsewhere. He could feel the weight of their actions pressing down on him. Killing the creature was one thing, but the consequences were still unknown. They had come to this alien world to prove their strength, but now they had to deal with the fallout. "Check the perimeter," John ordered. "Make sure we're not walking into another trap." His team moved to comply, but John remained where he was, staring at the creature. He had been part of many hunts in his career, but this one felt different. It wasn't just the creature's size or strength. It was the feeling that they had disturbed something far bigger than themselves. The jungle around them seemed to pulse with energy, and John couldn't shake the feeling that the planet was not done with them yet. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden movement from the creature. John's heart skipped a beat as he instinctively stepped back, but the movement was too subtle. The beast's massive form twitched, its claws scraping against the jungle floor. John froze, his mind racing. Could it still be alive? "John?" Mark called out, his voice filled with concern. "What's going on?" John didn't answer immediately. He took a slow step forward, his eyes narrowing as he watched the creature's body. It wasn't moving much, but it was enough to make him question everything. The creature had been mortally wounded, yet something about it seemed off. "Stay back," John said quietly, his voice tense. "It's not over yet." The team hesitated, uncertainty creeping into their minds. They had just faced the most dangerous creature on this planet, and now, after its death, it seemed to be stirring again. The air around them thickened, and the jungle seemed to close in. John could feel the temperature rising, as if the planet itself was reacting to the death of the creature. Suddenly, the creature's eyes snapped open, glowing bright with an unnatural light. John's blood ran cold as the beast let out a low, guttural growl. Its massive form shifted, and for a moment, it seemed to regain some of its former strength. The creature had died, at least that was what they had thought. But now, it was far from lifeless. "Back, everyone back!" John shouted. The team scrambled, their eyes wide with fear as the creature rose to its feet, its massive body shaking off the remnants of the net. It was no longer the same beast they had faced moments ago. Something had changed. Its eyes burned with an intense, otherworldly glow, and its muscles seemed to ripple with newfound strength. John's mind raced as he tried to understand what was happening. The creature had been mortally wounded, yet it was alive again. Was this some sort of defense mechanism, or had they triggered something they didn't understand? We need to leave now." John barked. The team turned and ran, but the creature was faster. It charged after them, its growl shaking the air. John's heart raced as he led the team through the jungle, the sound of the beast's footsteps pounding behind them. They had just faced the toughest creature on this planet, but now it seemed like they had unleashed something far more dangerous. The jungle, once a place of quiet, now felt like a trap. The trees seemed to close in, and the ground trembled with each step the creature took. John pushed forward, his mind focused on getting his team out alive. The battle was not over. The creature had returned, and this time it was more dangerous than ever. "Move faster!" John shouted, his voice filled with urgency. The team struggled to keep up, but their fear made them faster. The creature's roar echoed through the jungle, and John knew that they were running out of time. They had come to this planet for one purpose, to prove their strength, but now they had to face the consequences of their actions. The jungle was alive, and it was not going to let them leave without a fight. John pushed forward, leading his team through the jungle, knowing that their survival depended on how quickly they could escape. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that the true challenge had only just begun.